Hi everyone, Nubkeks here. It's that time of year once again. We're coming around, and the predictions for the next World of Warcraft expansion are beginning. In today's video, as you can see at the top of the screen right here, we're going to be reading through and discussing my thoughts here on a leak for 10.0, the next WoW expansion. This is allegedly taken from a private game dev Discord last night, and this new expansion is going to be called the Dragon Isles. So yeah, obviously this is alleging to be a leak. It might be, it might not be. Let's go through and let's see if it does look reasonable. And also, if it sounds pretty cool. Would it be something that you would like to see? Let's dive in. Let's do this. Apparently, all marketing being put together has the tagline, Azeroth has awoken. I actually think that's a pretty good tagline. I think it's straightforward. It's kind of catchy, tying into both, the idea of kind of World of Warcraft kind of coming a bit back to life after all the troubles it has been through, and also the idea of the World Soul coming to life as well. New zone, going to be the Dragon Isles. I guess this would be sort of a new continent, a new area. And this is what makes it somewhat believable to me, is that the Dragon Isles have been in the game for ages. And I think that's just a winner for an expansion, right? People freaking love dragons. Dragons are cool. Dragons are interesting. I think an expansion set in the Dragon Isles and being like a more traditional fantasy expansion, just like, dragons and cool traditional fantasy stuff, high fantasy, would really draw people in. So this, to me, actually seems quite likely. New race, black dragons. This is a bold choice. And a new system, Worldshaping. Let's take a look here. So, the end of Shadowlands. In the fight with the jailer, Azeroth is ruptured. We beat the jailer, save the planet, but there's consequences. Very vague so far. Some stay a while and listen events after the fight describe the state of Azeroth. Magni reverts back from diamond form. So, I honestly don't even know that much about Magni, and I don't care that much. I hope he's okay. He's not too addicted to Azeroth's wounds. So this stuff, like this particular bullet point here, I think this is very vague, and this leads me to believe that this leak is definitely made up. But let's keep reading on anyway. 9.2.5 pre-expansion event is being put together is huge. Lots of reused events like earthquakes and invasions, but also a massive time-walking event that's being designed as a mini season of mastery across lots of Azeroth-centric dungeons and raids. Devs want players familiar with the history of Azeroth before 10.0, a big tour of old events and lore. Now, that to me actually sounds fantastic. That sounds super cool. I would love that as a pre-expansion thing. Like, yeah, we're going back to Azeroth. We're recentering ourselves in, what World of Warcraft was about originally. Let's go back. Let's check out a bunch of those dungeons, a bunch of those old raids. Yeah, kind of traveling back through, having them properly scaled up for time walking. I think that'd be super fun. And again, bringing back some of the earthquakes, the invasions, and stuff like that, other pre-expansion events. Crazed, Trogs, Quillbore, Mantid, Elemental invasions across most of Kalimdor, Eastern Kingdoms, Northrend, and Pandaria. New world boss, Garadon, son of Galakrond. I think Galakrond is one of the big dragons, right? Again, this sounds, this sounds really fun. It's going back to those very traditional races, Trogs, right? We were fighting Trogs back in Dunmorrow. Back when we first started the game, right? Quillbore, Mantid, Elementals. I think, it's basic stuff, right? It's not this sort of world-ending, world-altering phenomena. This is like, these are the regular enemies in the regular world. And I kind of like that could be a focus. I think that's quite a switch up from where we've been recently. I think it's pretty cool. Right, going into this new X-Pack section then. So the 10.0 cinematic being put together is the biggest Blizz have ever produced. Entire cinematic team has been developing this for over a year. I mean, honestly, like, this seems just straightforward, of course. That's a given. Even if this leak is complete bullshit, that's still a given. They'll have been working on the cinematic for at least a year. More than that. I'm sure they're working on the cinematic, even laying the groundwork for it, for the next expansion, even after this one, even now. Like, there's so much work that goes into those, you can't even imagine. All Shadowlands pre-rendered cinematics were scrapped, and the whole team moved on to this. I actually think that this is not only true of the Shadowlands cinematic, I actually think this is true of a ton of Shadowlands content. This is one of the many big problems with Blizzard, aside from all of the cultural problems and the sexism scandals and everything wrong with just the company as a whole. and their management and leadership and everything. I do think they've had serious workflow issues with Shadowlands, even with BFA as well. I'm really worried about it. I genuinely am. I think my hope is that with this next expansion, they're going to pull a Legion where they basically scrap tons of Shadowlands content and just go, yeah, we're just going to go work on this next expansion, like they did by scrapping tons of Warlords of Draenor and just focusing on Legion. And that could be a bit of a comeback. But even if this next expansion is really good, I'm still worried that those issues are still going to be there. We'll see. This is a love letter to Azeroth, mirrors the original WoW launch cinematic, and ends with Azeroth being born. So this is the idea of the world soul, Azeroth's wounds, actually being born, becoming like an actual character that we interact with. I think this is, again, pretty likely. I think that's something that's clearly been building up for multiple expansions. Yeah, the whole idea of that, Azeroth is a world soul, like Argus was, for example. Like so many of the Titans were, and yeah, that we're helping out Azeroth, protecting Azeroth. I think this is inevitable, and yeah, kind of framing Azeroth, the world soul, actually being born and becoming a character that we're interacting with. I think tying that into like the original WoW launch cinematic and all of that, I think that's really appropriate. I do find it a little bit annoying. It's like, the whole World of Warcraft. It's literally the World of Warcraft. The world itself is the character. That's clearly what they've been building towards. I don't know if that's smart or if it's really stupid. Let me know. As a result of the Jailer's assault, Azeroth the Eternal is born from the World Soul. She's a dragon, sort of. All world souls are unique. Azeroth's essence has indirectly shaped the planet for eons, so straightforward. Dragons are tied directly to Azeroth, who's sort of the dragon progenitor. Once players reach Dragon Isles, they work directly with Azeroth to reshape the world. Story here is that the planet has taken a beating over the last couple of decades, and it's having dire consequences for everyone living there. That's right. I mean, just the female employees on Azeroth, they're having a terrible... Sorry. Azeroth as a character describes sort of like Lilu from Fifth Element, a supreme being, but with the mind of a child. Players need to help her unlock her powers to heal the planet. She's in a temple on Dragon Isles with Thrall and Rathian. Lots of Earthwarder lore as the three of them try to do what Deathwing couldn't. I love this idea. I think this is a really cool idea that we have this character who, she's super powerful, but she's just been born. She's a newborn. She's innocent. She's naive, new to the world, and sort of seeing the world through that positive viewpoint, right? Unlocking her powers, helping her to heal the world, making it a better place. It's a real good guy expansion. Not, as you see from this, there's no major villain in that sense. It's more just, we are helping the world. There's no big bad guy. There's just really big good guys. And I think that's pretty cool. Doing stuff with Thrall and Rathian is cool. Earthwarder lore, to me, is really interesting and very unique to World of Warcraft as well. I'd love to, bring in all that sort of stuff, bringing in like the Taurens and like a lot of that, traditional Horde lore and mythology and worship and rites and rituals, all that stuff. I think that'd be so interesting and so fun. And yeah, you could just have really spectacular zones and be even completely revamping some zones. That could be amazing. I think that'd be really, really cool. Azeroth has her own talent tree. Looks very much like old school talent trees from Classic. Again, I actually think that stuff like this is quite likely. I mean, they have talent tree style systems now constantly for stuff, right? There's one for Torghast. There was the BFA necklace was sort of not like an old school talent tree, but still that sort of linear progression. Artifact weapons and Legion, like this. This is extremely likely. There was a talent tree in the Nightmare visions from the end of BFA as well. The Nightmare Realms, you had your talent tree there too. Players can help her by training her via this tree. Each talent is also usable by players through the World Bond ability. Again, yeah, I think this is pretty likely, that going through the story, you're powering her up, and then you get to use some of these talents as well. So you get direct benefit, and you can see it not only in the story, but in your gameplay. I think it's a great idea. Excuse me. New abilities are like Covenant abilities, but no additional locked-in choices. Everyone gets the same abilities. Abilities have secondary effects depending on the zone you're in. One example is an ability like Abomination Limb that also works as a grapple hook. I think that's actually really cool as well, having just abilities that are out of combat things for exploring the zone, uncovering extra stuff. Yeah, I think that's a fun idea. That's a concept that's been in so many games. I think it works really well. Your toolkit for explore. I mean, it's the fundamental of how Legend of Zelda has worked since the SNES, so the SNES. So yeah, good. Dragon Isle zones will change over time via world shaping. Some pretty cool massive changes, like a whole zone turning from a desert into a forest. The zone is heavily elf-focused, with night elves trying to discover a way to restore Teldrassil with Azeroth's help. You plant trees, tend to a huge forest there, like a massive version of the Mist of Pandaria farm. I think this is again, it's a great idea. I think this is something that I've wanted in WoW for a long time, but the idea that you'd see tangible changes in zones, that the world would actually change over time, I think that's definitely like a next level to how this stuff works. I mean, if I think back to Burning Crusade and some of my fondest memories of the game, the Isle of Quel'Danas, right, where you were going around and unlocking it bit by bit, zone by zone, and as you were doing those quests, every day, your daily quests, that slowly more of the zone was opening up and you were going further, and it felt like, at the time, it really felt like you were having an impact on how that worked. I think it's a great idea that, we could just see the world changing as you go through. Like, it just needs to happen on a relatively slow scale, right? So that people can actually like tune in and see it happening, that you're not going to miss it all. But I think it's such a wonderful idea. It's a great idea. And yeah, again, I think fixing Teldrassil is a pretty obvious way that does tie this in a smart way. And yeah, I think it's a great idea. World shaping unlocks new abilities in each zone. Water walking, flying, teleporting, spectral sight, treasure finding. Yep, straightforward. Some older zones in Eastern Kingdoms and Kalimdor will be getting big updates during the expansion. I think that's a pretty obvious one. Like, you could go in and be like, okay, whatever, patch 10.1. Yeah, let's go to the, I guess Teldrassil is the idea. It's in the base game. 10.1 could be, well, let's go to like the Ghostlands, right? Let's go to Quel'Danas. Let's heal it up. Let's heal up the old High Elf zones. Let's do it. Let's heal up like the Worgen starting city. Finally go back there. There's tons of places. Let's actually go. That giant sword? Remember that giant sword that's been sticking into Azeroth? Maybe 10.1 or 10.2. Maybe we could go down there to Silithus and maybe fix that giant sword that's sticking into the world and make a really pretty new zone. How's that for an idea? That makes sense, right? That's pretty cool. Yeah. Okay. Black Dragons. Now, this bit is pretty crazy. This is the idea of a new race. Works like Worgen. Customize your dragon form and humanoid appearances. Humanoid can be any race, including allied races. Extra customization options for humanoid form, including horns, tails, jewelry, scales, as well as effects like burning eyes and molten blood, which is a cool new effect. This, to me, is, again, where it's starting to lose me. This kind of sounds like bullshit. Like what? So basically the idea is that you'd have your black dragon form and then your normal form. But your normal form is just you can be any race. So it sort of raises the point of, why would everyone not be a black dragon? Like, what's actually unique about being a black dragon? It's just, I am whatever race I want to be, but with extras on top of it. Doesn't really make any sense to me. So this is definitely making me raise my eyebrows very much. Dragon form is mainly used for travel and 2 racial abilities. Story will explain why black dragons need to learn how to fight like mortals as one of the classes. Okay. Black dragons can be warrior, mage, rogue, druid, hunter, warlock, priest, shaman, and paladin, all the original WoW classes. I actually think that's kind of a clever idea, that, for an expansion that's giving tribute to classic WoW, that only the classic WoW classes could be picked by the new race. I think that would be fun. Black dragon, druid lore, and shapeshift forms are super fun. This is super much like what I would put in as a bullet point that, honestly, it does sound like something they'd say on BlizzCon, right? This is like a BlizzCon bullet point, which doesn't actually say anything at all. So that's a good fake out. I like it. That's a good trick. Rathian has been trying to restore the Black Dragon flight since Cataclysm. Players are new dragons that Rathian has been overseeing in the Dragon Isles. Rathian has recruited or kidnapped class trainers from all over Azeroth to train his new flight. The Warlock trainer will cause some players to flip out. Since the battle with Deathwing, all dragon aspects have been losing their magic. New dragons, the players, need to learn how to fight alongside mortal races to save their race. Rathian's big thing is reversing the loss of magic from dragons completely and protecting his flight. You know what? That actually does sound pretty legit. I think this bit actually does sound kind of smart. That okay, this is why you could have a Worgen style race of black dragons. That could, they could transform from a humanoid form into a dragon form. And the reason that they're fighting in humanoid form is their dragon form is losing their magic, and they're all about trying to restore it and fix it. Okay, I'm down with that. I think that makes sense. Again, being any race, including allied races, seems silly. I would love to have like a sort of, a Middle Eastern sort of vibe to it, like Rathian is, right? Sort of this, yeah, I think a Middle Eastern-y themed race would actually fit in and be pretty cool and pretty different. It's not really represented in the game, and it fits with how Rathian looks and being a black dragon as well. I think it works great. So I think that'd be super cool if they were to do something like that. I'd be super down for it. And to bring in that sort of, more sort of Middle Eastern, or even you could even bring in some, I know it's completely different culturally, but you could bring in some Indian sort of vibes. You could bring in tons of different cultures from the real world and their sort of art and stuff like that we don't have in the game at all. I think that'd be nice, right? Anyway, no big bad in 10.0, but there are infinite dragons, Netherwing, and some new Dragon Isle specific proto races. Pretty fun Trog progenitor race that's actually super advanced and intelligent. Going back to smaller zone contained stories, big focus on discovery, soft rebooting Azeroth the planet, and setting up future conflicts. Again, I think, the best thing about this leak, right, is that, and they're very clever if they're making it up, because it's basically giving you exactly what most players want, right? I think this is what a ton of players have been asking for. I think that's just a super cool idea, like going back and having the sense of wonder, sort of exploring our world, this new area of the world, reinventing a bunch of the zones, and rediscovering these sort of classic enemies. And I love this idea of the smaller zone contained stories. Discovery. Rebooting the planet. It all sounds fantastic. It sounds fantastic. I think that's really cool. And not needing some big cosmic galactic scale story to tie it all together, to just have it be like, yo, we're in this like awesome like mountain zone, and like there's normal trogs going around, they're crazy, and then there's this trog progenitor race, and they have actually this really surprising and different culture that you can get to go and explore, and there's this whole story going on. What's going on? How do we fix this? How do we help out? Yeah, no big bad guy, right? No big jailer, because I think the jailer was a real flop. He's been such a flop as a villain, hasn't hit the mark at all. I think just going into an expansion and being like, there's lots of threats around the place. No big bad guy, just you are the good guy though. Go fix the world. Is a good message too for the way that Blizzard is right now. But there you go. That is the leak. Let me know what you think. Again, I'm somewhat skeptical, pretty skeptical. The guy who posted it is banned, apparently. I'm pretty skeptical about this leak, but I actually think that the bits that sound legit, I think the idea of the Dragon Isles, I think the idea of the Azeroth World Soul awakening, even the idea that the Azeroth World Soul could be a dragon, I think all of that stuff is super legit, actually. That sounds very, very likely. And I love the idea of a more back to basics expansion that still has this huge sense of wonder and discovery. I think that's super cool. And the idea, I really like this idea of helping Azeroth to basically heal the world, and sort of, her being this sort of childlike, innocent viewpoint. There you go. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.